The meeting of the Public Safety Committee is now called to order. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Bosley. Alderman French. Present. Alderman Vaquero. Present. Alderman Cohn. Alderman Carter. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Spencer. Present. Alderwoman Green. Present. Chairman Kennedy.
Here.
We have 5 present and we have a quorum.
Please excuse Alderman Bosley. I did hear from Cohn, Carter, and Kotar.
Will do. So noted.
Okay, we have before us today Board Bill 192 that is sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro. We'll recognize you at this time to review the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to, as we get started in the bill, now this is what they gave us as a summary. What kind of bothers me only a little, this is the actual book that comes out every month, and I'll pass it over there. I'd asked for a copy, they said it was too many pages to do. But this book comes out every month, and it goes to the mayor's office, it goes to the public safety director, but because we're the Board of Aldermen and I feel like we don't count, we don't get it. There's also, what was emailed to me is I would assume weekly or monthly newspaper, in a sense, that comes out with the stuff they're doing. They emailed it to me this morning, and again, I'm shocked, okay, that this stuff I'm disappointed, not shocked. I shouldn't say shocked. Disappointed that a lot of the stuff that I was asking for has been available for quite a while, but never really presented to us. So this is a summary of what's in there. They emailed me the actual book, but I kind of had felt that everybody had, I was under the impression we were going to get all of them. So I want to go over this to a point. So is it okay that we have Board Bill 192 in front of us? There's no committee substitute. Do I need to ask?
Procedurally, there's no, you can just proceed.
Yeah, you can just.
Okay, just making sure. So, now that I vented, Board Bill 192, when I was out and I was running for sheriff and I was in different areas, I heard everything from people telling me that people are being raped in prison, that that the conditions are horrible. When I met with Dale Glass, I was given a whole different scenario, more like it's Shangri-La. And somewhere between there has got to be the truth. And a lot of what I want to do or want to accomplish will cost money and may or may not be able to be done instantly, but in an order of how we can get stuff done. I'm not asking for a vote today, but we're going to try to set up a time, I believe, next week. Terry's going to try to set up where we're going to go and look at all the both prisons or jails, whether it's the workhouse or the Justice Center. It's my understanding that the 4th or 5th floor of the Justice Center has nothing there's nothing in there. Along with this, and when I talked in the meeting with Todd and them, they're trying to get a mental health docket put on. It would be, as we start to get the information on somewhere between what I'm being told and somewhere in the middle, there's the truth. I don't know that it's as horrible as people say, and I don't know if it's as good as people say. So somewhere in the middle, I think there's a truth, and I think that we need to find out. And I'm hoping by getting these facts, we can start to figure it out. Whether we add a team of psychiatry, whether we need to put in teachers in there to maybe, as we have people in there, that we start working on GEDs. If the 4th or 5th floor of the Justice Center is open and free, maybe we can change how we're doing things. If someone's deemed to have mental issues, maybe we put them over there and they get treated differently in a sense. If and of course I'm extremely claustrophobic, and no doubt about it, and I don't even like taking elevators. But if someone's mouthy or acting out, they're generally put in, I call it solitary confinement, they call it something else. But when you're put in a room with no windows, in a solid door, it's not bars, with a peephole, and you're in there for 23 hours and you're only allowed out 1 hour a day, if you have mental issues, it's going to make it worse. All this came to my attention when the lady that was in there had hung herself. And generally, you know, she started out by stealing a thing of salt, from what I understand, at the Cardinal game, and then she got into it with the police, and then she ended up there. Her family had told them at the jail that she had issues and that she was off her meds and stuff like that. Dale Glass tells a little different story. And then shortly after that, another person had hung themselves. I felt and feel that they were there were over 100 guys short, I know, at budget, because we were working on that. And anybody that sits on Ways and Means would see that they were down. They're telling me that they're pretty well full, you know. So, you know, my thing is that somewhere between what I was told and what, on both sides, there's a truth in the middle. And I really think that, you know, we should, you know, we have an obligation to figure it out. And how do we fix it? You know, how much is going to cost? You know, where do we start? Maybe we have a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, and a 4 or 5-year plan that we work toward, you know, to make a difference. I can tell you right now, I believe people need to go to jail. I mean, I'm in every court case, I'm over there arguing, you know, with the judges to give them as much time as possible in prison, because I do think, you know, people need to go there, but I also think when people are in our custody, and I've had friends that have been actually found innocent because they didn't really do anything, and if we need to, I'll have people come in, but that spend like 6 and 7 and 8 months there, and they're not telling me it's as much Shangri-La, you know, they're telling me the place sucks. Now, it's prison, I get it, but we have a responsibility to treat people like human beings when they're in there. And again, if it was, you know, someone, well, me in particular, like I said, I had my issues back in the day, and I don't know that it would have helped me to be locked in a room. And just because somebody screams and yells and acts out, because I mean, well, I'll say it, I know I realize it's on camera, but I had my, you know, issue and sickness back when I was about 16, and I was at Wool Center, and people act out. I'm sorry, people with the, you know, I had my own issues, but people that were schizophrenic and stuff, they would act out. What they didn't do was tie them to the bed, and I'm not saying they're doing that in jail, but they were treated differently. You know, they weren't punished because they speak out or yell out. You know, people have different issues. So what I'm hoping to address in this is to find out what the truth is. How do we address that? Oops, that's okay. But how do we address it, and what can we do to make things better? So I would leave it at that and open it up. If anybody has questions, I'd be happy to, and we may have speakers that want to speak. I will say that the mayor's office, when we did sit down and talk, that Mr. Glass came. They're very cooperative. You know, and again, some of the stuff that amazed me is had they would have given us these books, you know. And then I got a newspaper that they actually publish, would look like weekly or monthly, that says a lot of what's going on. You know, I would have thought 8 years on public safety, I might have caught wind of some of it at one point. So anyway, I'm just open for questions. I'm sorry.
So now we know this board bill does not address everything that you mentioned. It specifically requires the commissioner,
Right.
to place on their website information, and then you list the type of information
Right.
that is required. Now,
And we had talked and thought that there should be some change, and we would like it to come to us also.
right.
And I think that as we get information, we could kind of disseminate and figure out what we can do. This, and I would need Tim to, because we had talked about it, it really has three different things that it tries to address. And if I can get the clerk to kind of, actually speak to it, there's three different things, but the bottom line is we're trying to figure out how do we make it, if you have mental issues, how do we deal with that? How do we work with problems in the prison, and what do we do, or the jail? I was told there's a difference. So it does, and I agree, it may not address everything. I'm open to any committee substitutes. I'm open to making change to this, but that's really what I'm looking to do.
Okay. Questions from members of the committee? Alderman French? Any questions? Did you have others that you wanted to?
Well, does anybody want to speak before we, so there are people that want to speak? Well, why don't maybe I'll go through my questions and I'll, because maybe with stuff that they have might get answered.
Well, if it's only
during
one person, you didn't have any comments? You did have, then let's bring you up and have that.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you. And to first speak to the, you mentioned 8 years on public safety. The report was actually only under.
Just introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, I'm sorry. Josh Kramer, Director Gray, Director Gray's Office, Public Safety. To the Alderman's concern, the report that is provided there and was also provided to all of your email inboxes this morning in full, same exact, no changes as that report. That report right there is the same exact one in your inboxes currently. That report was developed by, or requested by Director Gray. It's no more than 18 months old. I think it's actually less than a year old, the requirements for. And so all divisions of public safety actually do now produce reports in some form or fashion similar to those. So it's a relatively new product of the Department of Public Safety in the interest of providing more data, more accountability, and an easier format for you and the public to review.
This is graded monthly?
Correct. And the report you're viewing is a monthly report. Every intention of continuing to be a monthly report. I know the Board Bill 192 has talked about a quarterly report, but the Commissioner will be providing this report into the future on a monthly basis. But certainly on behalf of Director Gray and Dale, I know that they both appreciate interest in this issue, the interest in the shared commitment to the welfare of the individuals in corrections care and custody. In response to your interest and in response to Board Bill 192, Commissioner Glass has convened an internal working group to determine what actions can be taken now to address concerns that have been raised independently of this bill and in concert with this bill. For example, one of the possible updates that was mentioned, or one of the requests of Board Bill 192, was a coding system, ABC, for use of force. After the working group was convened and is continuing to meet, they've discussed that as possibly an update to procedures internal to corrections that may be useful. Now that would require a sharing of information and sort of a demonstrative policy on how that information is shared, because we have to respect HIPAA. But the Commissioner is open to that, for example. Another example is part of the current Horizon contract, who is the healthcare provider for our correctional institutions. He is asking them to expand some of their counseling opportunities. Currently, there's one-on-one counseling, as I understand it. He's looking to also provide group setting counseling. That is something that would be available through the current contract that we have with Horizon. So he's looking at ways to expand the resources available to our folks there who are in our institution. Additionally, as you're very well aware, Board Bill 192 requested that a number of statistics be reported quarterly. As I mentioned, this will be a monthly report, because that is what the Commissioner has committed to over the last, I think, year. So in an effort to meet the requirements of that bill, the Commissioner has contacted Regis, which is the Regional Justice Information Services. They handle the data for corrections. And he reached out to determine a cost and the time frame which we could start providing the, I believe, 43 metrics that were requested through the bill. He was able to get an estimate, estimate of about $8,500. So of course, additional budget requirement here in the middle of the year that he'd be required to come up with. He would certainly appreciate your support in finding money or making a way for that to come available. But that was the estimate that was provided, and the time frame that Regis said that they could probably pull that report together and create it to be churned out on a monthly basis is probably the first quarter of 2017. So no earlier than January, but probably no later than March or April. Currently, they do have 2 projects that they're working on. They're constantly working on different, Regis is working on different projects for the Division of Corrections. And so the commissioner said he'd be happy to prioritize this one, move the other 2 down, and prioritize this data report immediately. So currently, as we've discussed, there's a monthly report that is provided to the Director of Public Safety. I brought along one copy of that. Again, it's in your inboxes. And then I also brought along the copy of the first page of that report, which is the measurables. And that is sort of an executive summary. And it's a starting point. That is what is currently used, but that might be the platform which we utilize to share either the 43 variable or metrics that you're asking about, or otherwise. Something that could be expanded, it could be supplemented with additional insights or information at the request of the committee. And the commissioner has said that he's happy to sort of tailor that to your needs and your requests, what you guys would like. And the commissioner is working immediately right now to put this report online for the public monthly, so that anyone, including yourselves, of course, can view that report. Full disclosure, all information is out there available. He has nothing to hide. He's happy to share that with the public on a monthly basis. And then, of course, if there's something, he would forward that to you. He could forward this metrics report as a different tailored version of that to you directly to your inboxes, so that you wouldn't have to go search it. He'd be happy to provide that information to you. Generally, that is what the commissioner has committed to at this point. He asked me to share that with you and offer that to help address the concerns that have been brought forth through Board Bill 192, and then, of course, all the other additional concerns as articulated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We will. We're going to. What's her name? Did you have any?
Terry.
Well,
Didn't have anything. Let's bring her up, and then we'll go to all the questioning.
I think you all know me, but for the record, Terry Powers, and I'm here as a member of the Advocacy Board of NAMI, the National Alliance of Mentally Ill and Their Families, and as Trip Powers' mother, and you know the backstory. I have toured the jail. It's been some years ago, and I have ongoing questions as to how much things have improved, and I look forward to working with you all to ascertain some of that. Solitary confinement is called administrative segregation. And I can tell you, as an intelligent, educated mental health professional, when my son was shot and arrested and incarcerated, my thinking was scattered all over the place. And my concern, I was told there are pods of 80 cots, and I didn't want my son in general population. He has a swimmer's build. He's about 5'7", and he's pretty proficient in things. He served in military intelligence during the first Gulf War, knows karate, other things, and thinks he can take care of himself. They said, well, we'll put him in administrative seg, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but routinely, when people are identified as having chronic mental illness, they put them into solitary confinement, which is counterproductive to mental health recovery. And there's a push nationwide, and I'm sure you're aware of it. You all know Reddick Hudson, who wrote Suffering in Silence and Still Suffering in Silence, and that was referring to the physical health side of things. At any rate, this is a step toward building relationships with our criminal justice system where they're not suspicious of my agenda. My agenda is compassion, integrity, and imagination, and being creative with what resources we have to have the best possible rehabilitation center. Now, I was told the average stay at the workhouse on Hall Street is 233 days. That's almost a year. And as Joe mentioned, GED programs would be one thing. There are a lot of things that you can do with people in a population. I think another concern is whether or not we have enough correctional officers, and a side concern there would be the pay and the atmosphere. We're asking people to do a tough job for low pay. One of the appeals to the inmates for administrative segregation is that that unit is air conditioned, where other parts of the facility are not. And I've been told that some inmates deliberately get into a fight so they'll be put into administrative seg. But I've seen these spaces, and it's the cinder block, a window way up high on the side that they can't see out of, and a steel door. And it has a slot where they can put their food tray in. And they talk to the guards through the door. I can't think of anything more dehumanizing other than being a prisoner of war and being subjected to mistreatment in that way. And I realize a lot of this is expediency. It's what can we do quickly to control a population. I've asked and never been told how many organizations actually volunteer. I know that there are people who are certified educators who go to our prisons and work tutoring people so that they can get a GED. I know that there are church groups who come. There's just a whole lot of need. And my motive has never been to be vindictive or to just stir up controversy. I see problems. I think about a ball of yarn and you want to untangle it. You've got to start wherever you can to unravel. And that to me is this. Ultimately, I want to see diversion programs for our mentally ill and for people with substance abuse. Neither one are helped by being incarcerated, and they add to the numbers of people in our jail population unnecessarily. The mental health court is something that Kim Gardner has said that she wants. It's something that I've talked with Jennifer Joyce about for years. Finding federal funding. Now, I went through Lacey Clay's office and was given a contact in Washington, D.C., and I emailed her, and that's been 6 weeks ago, and there's no response because I'm a lowly committee woman. You know, they need to hear from somebody within the system saying, we need to know about what federal funding is available. We need to establish a mental health court. There are layers and layers and layers here. And there are a lot of people like myself who are educated, who are credentialed, who are willing to help solve problems. And to me, this bill is just opening the door to showing that we're willing to work together to alleviate suffering. I would also personally like to see an alternative to Corizons. And I know that the county jails use a system where they have the Department of Health and contract people. Over the years, I've made friends with people like Dr. Fred Rotnick, who is on staff at SLU, who was their mental health coordinator in the county jails until Steve Stanger decided to cut the budget, and Dr. Rotnick and Steve Stanger came to a parting of the ways. There are a lot of people who know things, and we could put those pieces of the puzzle together and relieve a lot of suffering, whether it's stress on the employees or treating these inmates with respect and saying you don't have to live like this. There are alternatives. And that's my reason for consistently showing up at your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members of the committee? Alderman French, did you have any questions of any of the speakers?
I did have a question for the representative from the Public Safety Department. So the report, when did you say this report started to be produced, this monthly report?
I think it's less than a year. I don't think that the report has even been provided for a full year. And certainly in its current full form, it's less than a year old.
And who receives this report?
The director's office.
Does he share it with anyone else?
Not that I'm aware. I believe it was a report among all the divisions were requested to provide reports on a monthly basis, and so that was an initiative on the director's part.
Do you think that's something that should have also been shared with the Public Safety Committee here, maybe even the chairman?
I wouldn't be able to speak to the director's discretion on that.
Okay, do you think the director would have any objections to formally sending that over to the Board of Aldermen, the Public Safety Committee, and the chairman as well?
The correctional report? Or the corrections report?
The
No,
monthly report.
well, I'm sorry, what?
The monthly report, right?
No, as mentioned, the commissioner has already said he'd be happy to put that online
Okay.
in full, as held right there in your hands and as in your inbox. It's the full report, no change.
Okay. Now, this bill was introduced a little while ago, though, and we're just now getting the report this morning. I mean, this committee was actually scheduled for last week, and we hadn't gotten the report. So, while I appreciate you saying the commissioner is happy to be transparent and open, there's been a lot of opportunity to be just that, and we haven't necessarily seen that until this morning. So, I appreciate Alderman Vaccaro taking the lead with kind of pushing this issue. Thanks.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a very clear understanding of how the prison system works in our state, in our city, in our country. Can somebody answer to me? So we have a city prison. How are folks funneled into that facility?
So we have the workhouse, and we have, and I don't have a full understanding. That's why we're going to go on a tour, and we're going to learn, and somebody else may be way better to speak to this. I know if you get arrested, you go to jail.
So what
And-
kind, so I mean,
there's-
so you mentioned earlier there's a difference between a prison and a jail. Can you
because
just?
I kept saying it was prison. Well, prison is like bond terror. Once you're sentenced, so when you're in the workhouse, you're presumed innocent until you have a trial. So if you're in our jail,
He feels you can speak to this?
Would you, so I guess what I'm trying,
yeah, so someone might,
Let him come up and.
yeah, he might be
I
able
just
to
want
better.
to better understand who is in this facility, how they get there, what kinds of,
If they get in trouble for whatever reason, and they get arrested and they can't post
Can
bond,
you answer?
then, yes, I'm
If he
sorry.
can answer, come forward.
do you mind?
Hi, Carl, Mayor's office. So the city jail, and so jails are run by local jurisdictions like municipalities and counties, and then the state runs prisons. So the city jail holds individuals either on pretrial basis who are not able to bail bond out, or individuals serving state sentences for less than a year. So these are short-term, usually low-level felonies or misdemeanors, although there's not many misdemeanor folks there. And then there are some people who are there pretrial who are not yet convicted. That's a minority, but those individuals are awaiting their court date and for some reason are unable to be released, either because they're deemed a public safety or they're unable to pay their bail. So that's the major description of who are there.
Okay, are there any instances in which you have a city law that somebody's broken that you would go to a jail for breaking a municipal law rather than going to a state prison?
My understanding is that the municipal courts does not jail anyone.
Okay.
So probably had been a practice in the past. My understanding currently, we do not jail anyone for a municipal ordinance violation.
Okay, so these are all people that are in a pretrial situation or serving a sentence that less than a year that would have otherwise gone to a state prison?
That's my understanding,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. So generally speaking, a person would be there almost by definition of who would be there. They are necessarily there for less than a year. Is that my understanding? Unless they're in a pretrial situation for over a year. But okay.
Pretrial could be there for multiple years while they wait for their court date, but yeah, they should be there less than a year.
Okay. I'm looking through this. So Corizon is the vendor through which we have, they're the contracting agent that provides health to all kinds of health issues.
They are, and we had asked, why haven't we gone beyond that? And apparently they're the only ones that bid on it.
Okay.
At least that was the answer I was given. And in his answer, he said, we used to read our ordinances. It's like, it could be a fine or time in jail.
So is the contract with Corizon a yearly contract? Is it every 5 years? Do we have?
I don't have the answer. I think what I'd like to do is we come back again. Okay, I'll say otherwise we can ask Dale Glantz to come.
Okay.
Was looking at the RFP. That RFP was let on September 3rd, 2013.
Is the contract a annual contract or?
I believe it was, and Carl, if you'll correct me, I believe it was a 3-year contract with 2 options. So the initial contract was for 3 years, and then there was an option for the city to renew, I believe, on a yearly
Okay.
basis for 2
Three-
years.
I'm sorry, so
Pretty
it's,
sure.
it's a,
If it would be helpful, we can bring them in and go through all
well,
of
I was
this.
wondering, well, the reason, some of this, I'm kind of looking through the report that Corizon has prepared and this quarterly report. One of the things that really strikes me is the wide variances in the services that they're providing. So if I look on a monthly basis, if we look at just the health encounters, the kind of summary, you can see that, for example, an encounter with an MD varies on a monthly basis, anywhere from 85 encounters for the total population all the way up to 500. There's a really big swing. Meanwhile, the population in the facility remains very constant between 550 people, daily population to less than 6, varying only 10%. But the health encounters have wild swings across the board, and I'm curious. We have psychiatric assistance, but again, in a very non-predictable manner.
And so that's why I say it might be good, because all of us have had the opportunity to really go through the report.
Yeah.
To give us, take that moment and then bring them in and get all these questions answered, now that we would have the information in front of us. That might be helpful for all of us.
I think it might be a good idea to get a better understanding of what services they're providing. And I was curious if there are other, you mentioned Steve Stenger and the county having, I'm sorry. If there are other, I know we only had one vendor answer to the RFP, but I wonder if there are other vendors in the area that we could solicit or something. I'm not trying to villainize Corizon. I have no idea. This is my first encounter. I've never even heard the name before. But if there are, I have heard a lot of criticism about this facility. I'm curious to certainly learn more. last question would be regarding this, and I haven't read it in full. I know it was introduced quite a while ago. You mentioned there are three main goals with this. Could you, in a very concise way, describe those three goals with this Board Bill number 192?
Well, what I would do is ask the clerk to, because, you know, he put this together for me, although we worked together.
What are your
My
overall?
I can tell you what my goals are, and then when I went to our clerk/attorney, Tim, I told him what I'm trying to accomplish. One, so when I'm out there, I'm hearing all these horrible, horrible, horrible stories. True or not true, so I put this together, and then the mayor's office had a meeting, actually just Tuesday morning with me and Mr. Glass, and that's the first time we ever met. And he describes it certainly a different thing, and he brought that report, which shocked me, because whether it's 12 months old, 18 months old, because we've heard both, but no matter if it's 4 months old, 5 months old, why we haven't been getting it kind of set me back. So all I'm trying to do is get to the truth. So it's kind of like if you have like 3 or 4 kids like I did growing up, you know, trying to find the truth. Who did it? What's true? What's factual? What's not? So when I sat down with Tim, and I believe a lot of this came out of what New York already does. And I would ask Tim to speak to that. But all I'm trying to do is get to the truth. What's factual? Is it as bad as what we're hearing or not? Deal with the mentally ill. We know that's got to be an issue. And then work through it together, make changes of whatever's necessary within this bill, because these were just what I was told out, you know, going neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for re-asking the same question, but I understand that this bill is is mandating that we would get a report, a regular report, and I understand that to be one of the main goals for the bill. What are the other 2 main goals for the bill?
I think it's mostly all reporting, but let me ask the clerk to respond, because he can do a better job of explaining, since he's the one who actually wrote it for me. You know, like most of the bills that get written here, you go in with an idea and a thought, and you say, well, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And what I'm trying to accomplish is to get to what change needs to be made. How do we get it? The best way is by getting reporting. But let me ask the clerk he could break it down better. He felt it was really a 3-part bill. So I would ask if you wouldn't mind kind of doing that for me.
Mr. Clerk?
Well, I would say that I think that really reporting is the key main component of the bill. When the Alderman talks about 3 parts, I think I might have been talking about the fact that there are at least 3 different categories of administrative segregation in the jail system. And so I think he may be referring to that. And breaking up the reporting along those 3 different types of administrative segregation, I think, was important. And so that was a goal. But as far as what the other goals of the bill are, besides reporting and public access to the information, I think it's mainly so that this committee, you know, would have more visibility, and also members of the community and members of the medical profession and counseling profession would have some visibility and can crunch these numbers and would have an easier time in communicating with you and also the city government about what their thoughts are.
Okay, so thank you. So it's my understanding then that this is to address reporting.
Reporting.
And then we can use this, as you mentioned earlier, to create other steps moving forward to address any issues that we can understand from the reporting.
And that's why I said there's certain things we may be able to do in a year. Some of it could take 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's, once we have the information,
Yeah.
you know, we got a pretty good group of people here on public safety. I think we can
Yeah.
help to start making real change. Since I've never been there, and the last time there was a tour I thought it was like last year, but Antonio reminded me that it was actually like 8 years ago. and I didn't go. So, but,
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 so,
so I'm gonna go this time, and, see what the pods are, because the way they explained to me, even Dale Glass explained to me, there are no little windows at the top, that these pods are completely, there's no outside light, but there's, the light that's in there reflects daylight. I mean, that's what he told me. But again, when we go, I guess we can look, and if we see a little window, we can go, okay, it's there.
But we want to be clear that this bill is dealing with reporting.
reporting
Yeah, with
for
reporting,
just-
I'm sorry.
For just the one municipal jail that we have.
We
Am I-
have,
is that-
we have.
Or two, I'm sorry, two.
We got the two
The
places,
workhouse,
yeah.
you're right, I'm sorry.
The Justice Center, and it always gets me, doesn't have air conditioning.
Yeah,
So when they're saying, it's 100 degrees out, make sure to check on your neighbors, make sure to do whatever, the people in there are dealing with 100-plus degree temperatures inside a brick building.
right.
When I called over there, the answer was, well, we'll give them a little bit more Gatorade if that's what it takes.
Right.
And that, keep in mind that the cards are working in the same conditions. I didn't really like the answer.
So,
But, because I did ask, well, what are we doing when there's a heat alert?
yeah.
That's at
So-
the workhouse, they don't have the air conditioning.
That's it, yeah, there's no air conditioning at the workhouse.
Right.
It would be nice to build a new one, but my understanding is about $200 million that we don't have. But I guess we have $180 million, so, well,
So, as it was before us right now, all we're looking at doing is providing some reporting. So creating the requirement for reporting. In that effort, I understand that our clerk drafted the legislation. Did we, in doing so, because I've noticed it's pretty clear what we would be
Right.
requiring of the reporting.
Yeah,
Have we looked at best practices or other reporting that other municipalities participate in as it relates to their municipal prisons?
this comes out of New York.
So it's,
Yeah, the clerk did look, and this is out of New York. So this is what they do in New York, and it's reported. And I would assume they use that information to make change. This is going to be a collaborative effort, not only just of the jail system that we have, public safety and ways and means, because we're also going to identify problems and then figure out how do we fix them.
So I think if what we're looking at is reporting, and we've participated in looking at best practices of other municipalities, this is a great first step in addressing, as you mentioned, the numerous issues that many of us continue to hear about in public meetings regarding our facilities. So I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Green, any questions?
Don't really have questions. I have, I guess, a comment and maybe a request for the committee. There's been another bill to create a mandated abuse reporting system for the jails that have been hanging out there for a while and kind of caught up in some politics, and I would like to see that move forward. I have personally requested several times to go and tour the workhouse and the Justice Center and been given the runaround.
We're going to do that, though.
I think it would be really great for the committee to
We-
tour those facilities.
We have an agreement that not only the committee, but I'd asked particular about Gloria Boyer, I think it was.
Boyer, yeah.
That she would be able to go, as well as Terry Powers.
Okay.
And what they said is, as long as we go through and we don't sit there and try and make this a media event or do anything, we don't, like put stuff on social media, don't take pictures, respect the privacy of the people that are in there. We're gonna tour both facilities. Terry's gonna set that up.
Someone told you what?
What's that?
What did they tell you?
Which
Let-
part?
let-
I'm
let-
sorry.
let us
Maybe
be- Let us be clear. It is not a, what do I want to use here? It is both the responsibility of this body
Right.
to not only assist in the governance of this city, but to ensure that it's functioning properly,
Right.
but that it also has the right to tour whatever facility that's
Right.
owned by this city that it wishes. Right,
Right, at any time. No, that's a
And
fact.
provides this body the opportunity to make the important decisions that it needs to make.
Right.
So I hope I'm not hearing from you that there was a resistance
No,
to this
no,
this
there
committee.
was a resistance
Oh, okay.
to, at one time, I know that Terry Powers and Gloria asked, and I guess,
And decarcerate was
and
denied as
they were
well.
told no. Part of what I said is,
Nobody that's a part of the Board of Aldermen was told no.
I don't know, I mean, that's
I
what
was
she's
given the
saying.
runaround, so I had to move the meeting that I had scheduled with them, and then they would never reschedule with me.
So,
And I tried for probably 3 or 4 months.
I would have to say that I called them originally, I guess, 2, 3 months ago, and I was told if I want to come by myself, I could, that any member of the Board of Aldermen could come. I'm trying to also address other people that are telling me all these things that are going on, that they can see it firsthand. And I know it's unusual to bring people that are not on the board with us, but they've agreed that as long as, you know, the people that we would bring don't go on social media or don't do anything, just view. And then the whole goal behind this is, how do we fix something? We don't really want to, there's no need to try to embarrass anybody or do anything out there too much. A lot of this is to address it. I'd like some of the people that have, you know, that have seen things. I'm sorry if I'm
I
wrong.
had recognized Alderman Green to,
I just,
were you done?
I think my statement is just, I would like for us to tour it if we have the ability to invite, you know, somebody from Decarcerate or somebody from these other organizations that have been working on some of this legislation. I think that would be good for them as well. I understand if that can't happen, but in terms of transparency, I think it's very important that this body just is able. So that's really the statement that I want to make, that I want us to get in there and tour it, because I think that beyond this, there are a number of things that we need to address with regard to the workhouse in particular.
I would like just a quick reply if I could, but, you know, and that's fine, and the chairman will set it up, and he had planned on setting it up next week or so. What I don't want to do, I'm open to committee substitutes, okay? But I don't want this to be forever and ever and ever and ever delayed and never go anywhere, because if we don't do anything other than get this as it is put together, it's a step forward. If all we do is discuss this for the next 5 years, it becomes useless.
And I agree, and I think this is a good first step.
And that's all it is a first step.
So, yes.
If that completes you.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ingrassi, did you have anything? I had a question. Is the information that is in this report the same information that the bill is requesting? Is that covered in this report that was given to us?
There's a little more in the report than they're given right now.
Yeah,
And-
I believe there's additional pieces of information that would be either included in this report or in some other format that would please the committee.
So is everything that is requested in this bill in that report?
Not at this point, I don't believe so.
Oh, so there's additional information that that the bill requires that is not,
Correct,
in
and
this
that
report.
information would need to be culled from Regis. And then that report would be produced.
And they're working on that.
because it's not already covered in this report that comes out monthly?
Regis.
Okay, and there's a cost
Approximately $8,500, correct.
for a year worth of it?
That is a one-time fee, I believe, for
A
the
one-time fee.
programming to create the reports.
It
So
is the
there's-
purchasing of some kind of programming?
It's Regis actually has programmers that program their system to create a report in this case, to pull the information out. Because it's all stored database style, I believe, and then it would pull it out into a format that would be digestible.
Now, I believe the bill has an effective date. The first reporting officially under this bill is July of 2017, if I'm correct?
Right, but they, like he had mentioned earlier, they would have this together by January, no later than March.
Not January.
But,
Can't be.
well, it couldn't be, but you said, but
I
no later
remember
than
seeing a
March.
date in the bill
Than March.
No
that you're
later than
requesting that the first report be, I believe, let me see, the first quarter, Commissioner. And then, so the first reporting would be for the, according to this, the quarter beginning April 1st up to July. And so really, and then you have 20 days after that to produce the report,
Right, but they're
or
going
the
to,
20th day after that.
they're gonna start sending us the monthly report right away. So I think it gives us a working place. I think by putting this board bill in place, it also shoots to a goal.
Now, I was thinking about the request that he had about getting additional money. I was trying to make, if this was already in sync with the city's fiscal year, then they could just include it in their requests
Right.
of their, their annual budget.
And-
Well, that's where I was headed in my question.
And I'm fine, that's why I said, I'm open to anything. Alls I was trying to do was address what I was being told and
Okay.
try to find out where the truth is at. And I'm open to changing dates or
Okay.
adding, if that's,
Alderman French had something.
Sure. Regarding the funding, I believe that there were funded but unfilled positions at the Department of Corrections. Couldn't funds just be transferred with an E&A request for this purpose?
That'd be a question we have to pose to the commissioner, determine what funding's available. I'm not intimately familiar with his budget.
Okay.
and
Mhm.
I just want to add, I mean, in my talk with the mayor's office and with Dale Glass, they were really very nice to me. I mean, they weren't standoffish in any way. I was disappointed a lot of this stuff wasn't given to us when it became available, but there's so much stuff that's not given to us that I see on the news, and I'll be like, people ask me, I saw that, the city's doing this, and I'll be like, okay. I didn't see the news that night. So, I mean, that was probably my only disappointment, but they're agreeing to work with us
Okay.
is out there. I mean, they're very cordial, they're very nice about it.
But the bill only requires them to post this information on a website,
Well,
on their
and
website.
I would say that, and you had mentioned to me, I think that should be sent over to
Yeah,
us.
I would like to see it sent to
And,
this
and I,
committee.
and I think that should be added to the bill, I mean,
Okay.
I think after we tour the jails,
Mm-hmm.
we should somewhat maybe do a committee sub that might add a few things. This is just an initial start to something.
Were there any other questions or comments from members of the committee?
Can I be added as a co-sponsor?
Let me add it.
So noted.
Okay. With that, we're going to hold the bill, because there
Right.
may be some other changes that we've discussed that you want to make to the bill.
Right.
Was it your intent to pass this
There's no
out?
sense putting it through until we've gone to the jail that we've seen.
Okay. You'd like for us to hold it until we
Yeah,
view the jails
yes.
and then
I did.
make
I
any
would like to
changes
hold
after
it,
that?
make whatever changes, but
Okay.
I would honestly like to get this passed out of committee, like,
Shortly thereafter.
yeah, very, very shortly after. I don't want to run out of meetings.
And to that note of the visit, the commissioner is happy to host Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week if the committee would be able to.
Oh, to do a tour of the,
Yeah, for the
Okay.
tours of both CJC and MSI.
you had something, Alderman Spencer? I thought I heard you say it.
Well, I was asking, so we are going to tour the facility to see if there are changes that we need to make in the reporting requirements there,
Yes.
okay?
Mhm.
That's,
I would think, since I have no real understanding, and I would be the first to say, I have no personal knowledge of anything that goes on in the prisons, but other than shower facilities and stuff like that, they're gonna be open, they're gonna take us, we can see the pods, we can see, so, maybe the pods got TVs on the wall and whatnot, maybe it's not as bad as I think, I don't know. But, and I don't see the tour making a big change to this, but it certainly give us an idea if the place is clean or dirty, maybe we need to add something in there.
I mean, the tour can certainly be informative, so, and helpful. I've toured before they had the Justice Center, the jail that was sitting right here in the parking lot that's now a parking lot, where they had the hangman noose in the middle of it. Yeah, so it's,
You've been around longer than me. I got 8 years, you got, what, 20-something years?
I have more than I had planned. There is no other comments from members of the committee. Then we'll hold the bill
Please, yes.
and set up the tour.
Yes,
We thank those from the other departments. We thank you for coming out and making your comments.
yes, I do.
committee people are
That
not
was
lowly
nice
to
that they
us.
came out.
So,
and
okay,
Terry-
with that, then, there's no other agenda items. Our meeting is adjourned.